All right, how's it going, everybody? I want to do a quick video update. First of all, I want to thank everyone that wrote comments and uh, and gave me their thoughts. I really do appreciate that. I just want to basically once again a response video and and just pretty much let everyone know I am still contemplating. I hadn't made a decision, yes or no, but I have a lot more reservations, which is probably going to lead to the answer that y'all probably are thinking. Then again, I might surprise y'all. You just don't know. Um, uh, Now, here's the thing. I thought about this. Some people thought they might be thinking, if you get this console or you buy a console, um, what are you going to do with this Allen Heath? Well, Allen Heath works good, so I definitely wouldn't get rid of it. The only issue with this Allen Heath is because it's a 48 channel. And for those that put in perspective how big this console is, I'm going to show you with the measuring. I'm going to show you in measuring right quick. Now, this console grab it. It is about so if people want to know how long this console is, it is 71 and a half inches, which is just it's just a little shorter than a half inch shorter than 6 feet. Now, the console itself sits. I got it on a stand. The console itself, it ain't that deep, but it doesn't sit very high. It sits maybe from here. It's probably roughly 30, just about 30 inches or 2.5 feet, and the meter bridge makes it, just a little bit. 30, probably another 3.5 inches, 34 inches. And then from back to front, it sits roughly about 26 and a half inches. So about 26 and a half inches, or just a little over 2.5, maybe 2.5. 26 inches, so basically just a little over 2 feet. 2 feet 2 inches, or 2 feet 2.5 inches, right? Now the console I went to go look at, it, is massively bigger and massively heavier, and so my thought process was that I moved this console in this room. This console, and it weighs 140 pounds by myself. I took it from downstairs because this studio is upstairs. Anyone that see my studio tours know this is upstairs. And it was 140 pounds, and I lifted by myself, and it was no joke to move by myself. It would have been a whole lot easier with a two-man lift. Would lift this easy with two people. But I lifted by myself. I raised it vertically, carried upstairs, had to lay it down, and then basically had to work into the room, put it on the stand. So I had to lift it, put it on the stand, and eventually it was against that wall. And then, of course, I eventually brought it in the middle because of speaker placement. It's definitely you definitely get a lot more placed here and where the speakers are placed to get accuracy. Now, the console that I was looking at, and these consoles actually, for this console, recording console, So it's the Atari concept. If you everyone that people may be wondering, it's actually 86 inches versus 71 and a half. So it's actually another 14 inches, right? So I was thought about that, which means 71. So if I went 86 inches, if I get this tape measure to cooperate. Okay. If I went up to 86 inches, it would actually, if you look at it actually would be 8 inches, 86, let me see. It would stick that much wide on both sides. And sticking that much wide on both sides is really not really so much of a big deal because this stereo rack with the speaker note would move anyway because this would come out of this room anyway. This computer desk would come out of the room anyway. So that wouldn't be a big issue. I would probably get a couple of smaller, like one smaller computer desk here. And because I do have my Mac, my other PC, and this PC, and I would just improvise a lot more to get this bulky studio because this is an office desk in the corner, and this would come out as well. So that's not an issue. There's two issues that I have to deal with. This is 26 inches. The length from front to back of this console is 46 inches. So we're talking here. So I thought about that. I was like, wait a minute, that console is way deeper. It's way deeper from front to back than this one. So this is 26, add another 20 inches to that. And I was like, wow. That's deep. So not only would it be out to here, it'd be a lot longer. And then it sits taller. I measured this 36 inches. This one would sit 41 inches. So the console would actually sit up here. So, and one of the last things, unlike this console, which weighs 140, that console weighs 500 pounds. Now, a lot of y'all are probably watching the video going, see, do you really want to deal with something that big? And it was funny because I was thinking about that because I said, you know what? As big as that is, that's still on the smaller side compared to like, I was looking at dimensions like a Neve and the SSL and consoles like that. And of course, they range in size based on how many channels you get. Whether it's a 32 channel SSL, 48 channel SSL, even 56 or whatever. Of course, 56 you would never get in this room. The deal with SSLs and Neve is like even a 48 channel SSL. You're looking at 12 feet. So if this console's 6 feet, imagine it go from wall to wall. An SSL would be way too big for this room. Even though the depth from front to back is about the same, 46 inches. And then an SSL console is 1,200 pounds. And when I was reading some more information on this console that I was looking at, you need, even with this console weighing about 500 pounds, you need about four or five strong people to lift that joker because it would have to come upstairs. And I was thinking about that. Do I really want to go with a bigger, longer way completely heavier console to bring it upstairs. But that's not even the dilemma. The dilemma, because it is a console, I did more research on it. This is and you're probably wondering, why was I so adamant about, looking at the console? I'll tell you this. If you want to know about this console, if you go on YouTube and let's say you do a search for, let's say you mention the name of the artist group that we did. It's called A Different Taste. A Different Taste. And you want to hear some of the songs? I got it. Some of them uploaded on SoundCloud, and I think it's under my what I call UND Music Productions. But you can YouTube because a YouTuber uploaded the video, the songs, which is I have no problem with that. And you want to hear the album that we did, A Different Taste. Like, let's say you go A Different Taste. One of the songs will be Someone Like You. Someone Like You. So you can type in, do a search on YouTube, A Different Taste. You can pause the video if you need to. And you can do a search and always come back to this video and pick it back up at whatever the time frame. And it's called A Different Taste, Someone Like You. Or A Different Taste, Make a Move. Or A Different Taste, Second Chance. Or songs like those are some of the names of the songs we did. The music portion of that if you do a search, and the music that you listen to is the music I did, but it was recorded on and mixed and all that on an Atari console. Now, I was anxious inside because at that time I was in my mid-20s. We did this album in the 90s, about 94. So 94, 95. The Atari concept came out in about 94, 95. So the console at that time was brand new. So that's all I knew about the console. When we went into the studio, it was already hooked up and running. Brand new console, hooked up and running. Cables, everything's already ran. It was already hooked up in the studio. Found out this console is digitally controlled by the computer. And being that it's digitally controlled, even though it's an analog console, the center section, routing section portion is digitally controlled by a computer that ran off software off of Windows 95 type of software. Come to find out, there are cards in it, something like a HoverNet type of card, and some other cards in it. And so I was on YouTube watching a video on some people powering that console up, and when they turned the power on, the console turned on. The console turned on. But the guy said, "Oh, it turns on. There's all the channels on." He said, "No, I got to turn the computer on." And so he turns the computer on, and you can see a screen that was loading up, like any Windows computer, because my other computer here is actually Windows XP, so I'm used to Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP, older operating system, Windows system. Those are easy, super easy to navigate. And then once the computer loaded up, it went into the Atari concept software, and it started loading up. And then when it loaded up, the channels, then all the channels lit up. I think they had a few channels that didn't light up, but the channels came on. And that was it. The video was not very long. I think it's like 3-minute video. And I got to thinking, I'm like, oh. I used to wonder why these consoles were going so cheap when they were super expensive, $50,000 to $70,000 to $100,000. I guess it depends on how many channels you got, because some of those consoles had as many as 48 channels, which gave them, if you double the channel, really 96 channels. Some were 32, some were 40, some were 48. Just depends on which version you got. And there was not only the Concept 1, there was the Elite and the 18R and so forth like that on the Atari series. Now, if you know about the company Atari, Atari were also known for making 2-inch tape machines, half-inch tape machines, and they're also known where they first started the first digital recording system called the Atari Radar. The Atari Radar became a super popular digital hard disk recording system in most commercial studios that didn't want to continue to use tape. They used some of the highest high-end AD to DA converters, and it acted, and it with the software and the session controller and all that made it perform like a tape machine without actually being a tape. It was actually a hard disk recorder. And it was prominent until DAWs got really, really good. We're talking Pro Tools and every other DAW out there that got really, really good. So Radar is still in use for a lot of people, but most radar systems are limited to only about 24 tracks. When we know in our DAWs, we can do as many tracks as we need. I mean, 200 tracks if we want to. And with the ADDA converters that are good, like my Antelope, the sound quality is just really, really good. So, to sum up the video, that system was bought out by a company called IZ Radar Systems. They still make them, but it's now called IZ Radar. And they got Radar 2, and then they got Radar Studio systems. And a lot of companies still use them, but a lot of people have more and more studios, a lot of studios mostly do Pro Tools sessions or DAWs in general. Because DAWs you just can't beat what a DAW can do. So, with that being said, I put it all in perspective. And now, the console's not very expensive for what they're asking. And I've seen those Atari concepts be sold or $1,000, $2,000, whatever case. Some people have bought them and they only needed a few things like a couple of network cards or whatever that they had gotten. And a lot of people claim, well, I've had it for 5 years. You go on Gear Space and all the different forums to find out what people are saying about something. I'm very thorough like that when I do research. Like what people were saying about before I bought this Allen and Heath, I was doing a lot of research. Should I get an Allen and Heath? Because most of these Allen and Heath boards are live boards. So some people are probably wondering, why are you looking at something like that massive and big? Because those type of consoles are professional recording consoles. And of course, Warren Hewitt had his. Somebody said that he sold his SSL. I don't know. He probably did. I don't know. But he did have an SSL console in his house. I know it's big. That I do know. Those type of consoles are always big. And a lot of people, this Allen Heath is a big console for a home recording studio. And it is big. But it's not as big as pro level consoles like an EVR, SSL or Audien, or those type of consoles. Those consoles are big. And they're much, much heavier. Some 5, 6, 7,000 pounds. They are heavy. The next question, so with all that being considered, I know some people say you are answering your own question to why would you do that. Well, there's two more things that I'm going, like I said, I want to talk about why I'm making this video and why I'm still contemplating. This console is a great console. It does have direct out, so you can record. I have to treat it like a split console and not an inline console. Most inline consoles, and there are some instances where I can't bypass the preamp. And a lot of times I don't want to use the preamp when I'm using preamps, especially external preamps, to go into my interface, which goes to my DAW. So I have to do this channel for returns, that over there, or for recording and monitoring, and then effect returns and other channels that I'm using for certain other things. Other than that, I can't. It doesn't have a dedicated control room volume monitoring. It doesn't have a studio live room control. It doesn't have none of that because the main two faders are really designed for live. So those are not really designed for your main 2-track master to a 2-inch tape, half-inch tape machine. These are designed. Those two yellow, which is your stereo left and right, are designed for speakers. So I have to split volume level between the speakers, the two speakers, and at the same time, when I'm recording out through the stereo track out on the back of the console to print back into my interface to print my. Now, does it work? Yeah, it works fine. But it's not ideal because this isn't designed for recording. So a lot of people probably wondering, why am I so adamant about wanting a console? Because I want the routing and the workflow to actually be a recording console. I'm not really looking to change the sound quality because this sounds good. I'm really looking for more of a recording studio workflow routing through an analog console. There are people that suggest, why don't you go digital? I don't want digital consoles. Digital consoles are great. I have a older digital console here at Yamaha. It's an older digital console. It is a digital console. But the reason why these older ones don't sound as good as the new ones because the AD to DA converters were what they were then compared to a modern Presonus Live, Behringer X32, Yamaha TF5, or a Midas M32, or Allen Heath QU16. Any modern digital console today, they use Cat5 or AES or MADI and so forth, and they also can be controlled by your tablet or your iPad, and all the modern features you can use. Them have plugins. They got better software, better processing, but it is a digital console is still an AD to DA converter, whether you want to believe it or not. So that's why it's anything we do, anytime you talk about digital anything, we're talking about converting analog into digital for computer processing, and then convert it from digital back to analog so we can hear. So it is an ADD internally, but it's designed for the mixer. It's just that the ADD and converters in modern digitals, and a lot of people say, well, there's the flex, they got the routing, and there's a ton of reasons, but that's it doesn't necessarily because digital mixers they don't have the complete routing flexibility like this analog console does. Like this one has 10 auxiliary sends, matrix, bus outs, direct outs. I mean, it's got a lot of routing. But that's not, so if people are wondering about that. So, then some people are watching this and wondering, well, then what's the deal? You don't want to do digital. You don't want to really do in the box stuff. And I gotta clear this up because some people bring this point. Yeah, I mix in the box all the time, and I always scratch myself. Yeah, we can all mix in the box. We still gotta record it first. I'm not using this for mixing only. I'm using it to record. So it aggravates when people use just the mixing in the box as a justifiable argument. When there's three stages to record in the recording process of a studio. You got to record, which is called the front end. Then once everything's recorded, then you mix it. Whether you choose to mix in the box, or you mix out of the box, or you mix hybrid, or whatever the case, that's the second step. You got to record everything first. Then everything's mixed. You got to master it. Then it's ready for distribution. And that's not to be. That's why I'm not mentioning any subscribers' names or anything, because this is not an attack on my subscribers, because I would lose all my subscribers if I did that. This is just so you understand why I. So some people might be wondering why analog console and all that and blah blah blah. They're big, they're heavy, they're blah 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 blah. Because I love the workflow this way. I wouldn't have the console with all the rack gear that I got and what I have in this, what I got going on here, if I didn't like working that way. I like working this way. I want to work this way. I'm going to work this way, and I want to continue to find ways to make it work for me, including switching from a live console to an actual recording console. But I'm considering the issues for me would be on this is, am I taking a risk on getting something that I may not be able to get working? There's the risk to it. That's why I'm contemplating. I don't want to just spend money and then have something and it become a 500-pound boat anchor. Some people are like this. Well, if you know you don't want to take that risk, then don't take the risk. But I'll put it like this, and I'll end the video. When I bought my Behringer, and I know the Behringer is like, it's not even on the same, even though it's a recording console, but when you talk about those pro-level consoles like SSL Neve, it's an entry-level console. It's not on the level of those consoles. But I only bought it for $150. So mine's like this. They already stated it doesn't have a power supply. We're selling for parts, not working condition only, because there's no power supply. We have no way to test it. And because of that, I was taking a chance. Even though it was $150, it was like $125 actually, $125 for that Behringer MX8000 I got downstairs. $125, but it cost me also $8 shipping because it is a 70-pound console. It's not light. It ain't as heavy as this, and nowhere near as heavy as like that Atari Concept or an SSL or Neve or any consoles like that. The weighs, they're super heavy. But it is heavy. It's not light compared to my Yamaha 100V over there, which is it's actually light for a digital console. It's light. Even though it can be kind of heavy because it does weigh 25 pounds. But it's nowhere near, my Behringer's 70 pounds. And it's bigger. It's way bigger than that digital mixer. It's way bigger. At the time, I was like, well, because it's a recording console. It's actually a recording console, so it actually has the features of a recording console like you're supposed to have. And it's an inline console, so I bought it. And I said, okay, well, it needs a power supply, so I ordered a power supply. The power supply was $150. So power supply come in, the power supply came in, plugged it up, turned it on, board turned on. And I've been using it for the last 11 years. And it still works. Works fine. And that board came out in the 90s, mid 90s, like 95. 94, and it still works, and it don't have any issues. But it don't is missing a lot of what you need in a pro level console. So I acquired the Allen Heath, but I knew I wanted an Allen Heath, but it's a live console. Has it been working? It works great. I work around the live issues by making it a split console, and there's other, and like I said, this video is over 30 minutes now, so it's gonna turn forever. So, but this still don't have the features of a pro level recording console. Like I want a meter bridge or, VU meters per channel. It's just a lot of factors. Versus me just having a meter bridge for the buses, the main outs, and the mono, which I use as a sub. So, in the video, because I know it's long, I didn't turn it in a long video. I've not decided not to pull the trigger, but I'm leaning more not to do it because of those three factors. Being that it's digitally controlled and it will not operate if the computer itself doesn't, it's dead if the computer doesn't work. If the software, something's wrong with the software, whatever. And I'm like, oh, that might not be good. Then it's physically bigger and physically heavier. And I'm like, getting it upstairs is going to be a nightmare because of this weight and size. But even though this weight and size can be a nightmare getting upstairs, I know that's just a one time, because all people that move those type of consoles struggle moving them. They are because of the weight and size, and they're heavy, and you have to maneuver corners and everything else. I totally get it. But I know once it's in here, it's in here. But that's not my dilemma. My dilemma is doing all that and then try to get it up and it don't even, you can't, or, you can't get parts. I'm not even worried about maintenance in the channels. I can solder. I'm not worried about cables. I can solder. I know I use D-sub cables. I have D-sub cables. All that stuff I'm not worried about. Hooking up the patch bay and getting all that wire, I'm not worried about none of that. My dilemma would be if the computer that comes with it does not boot up or have a problem or fails, the board is down and it's not even usable. And I don't want to take that. That's what I don't want to take a chance of. So I need to contemplate on, do I want to take that risk, even though I'm not going to spend a whole lot for this board. So that's my update. I will let you know. I'm going to tell you right now, I really want something like this because it completes the workflow that I want to work in. So everyone that's going to write all these comments, that it's my kind of workflow. It's the reason why I work the way I work through the console now. And same thing with downstairs with my Behringer and that little smaller setup. That's the way I want to work. So people that are making suggestions, that if you like working in the box or working with your setup, of course it's your setup. It's the way you love working. There's nothing wrong with, because there's no rule that says that, it's something like, it's kind of like saying, I love working in Pro Tools, so I think you need to work in Pro Tools. No. If a person said, if you work in Pro Tools and another person said, no, I love working in Reaper, you can't sit there and, I don't know why you don't want to switch to Pro Tools. I love working in Pro Tools. I don't know why you don't want to work in Pro Tools. That's a problem. But I can understand why some people would sit there and say, yeah, you might need to think about that. Those are cons. The pros to it is, if it works great, let's say I buy it, everything turns on with no problem, there's no issues, or very, very minor issues that can be fixed relatively, you know, easily or in a fair amount of time can be fixed. You can get parts to fix issues or whatever. Let's say all that, and I go through the physical struggles of getting it up here because it weighs so much. But once I got it up here and I got it set, and you know, and so forth, I turn everything on and the power supply and everything turns on. It turns on and it boots up and everything starts working and I can start running sound through it and it starts working great. Then some people will probably say, well, wow, yeah, that, because if I get up and it's working great and I have very minimal issues, then a lot of people will like, oh, okay. You know, some people still, even to this day, there are people I don't understand why I have this 40 Allen Heath in here. You know. So, anyhow, it's 36 minutes. I didn't want to make this a really, really long video on me contemplating. Trust me, I am contemplating and thinking like you're thinking. Whether you decide you want to go with a console or not in your setup or how you want to do your setup, I'm thinking about it. I'm taking in all. I'm really considering the pros and the cons. Seriously, the pros once again would be the workflow that I want, and it works. It definitely is definitely what I'm looking for. How I want my studio to work, and it's what I really want. That's the level of console I really want. And that console, that's the console we did a different taste music on. So I know what it sounds like. The cons would be getting it up here, the weight, it's physically bigger, and will it work? Those are what I'm dwelling on. So, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching me, this long video. It's giving you a contemplating update to if I'm going to get this console or not. And I will post in the next few days if I pull the trigger or not. Some people, you know. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.